First off, we're going to talk about the lighting turn field.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. So this is a project that we've been looking at for several years now. We've received several quotes from several different contractors. I believe one of them was a little over $700,000, one of them was a little over $800,000. I think Wayne has come up with a better solution for this through
This is a good system.
their regular vendor.
Their tech line has designed it and will help with the install.
I think we already budgeted for it. So.
We did. I don't know if it was official or unofficial, but yes, the numbers are in there. But basically, we've robbed Peter to pay Paul so much out there. There's no more robbing to do. We will not have adequate lighting if we don't upgrade now.
All the fixtures are at end of life. And along with the poles, there were some pictures and stuff in the packet of the decay of the poles. And
when I was reading through it, did you say y'all are gonna start it after the season or like now to have it ready for the season?
after, it would be disaster if we didn't finish.
And
the season was up and the field to be tore up. We're going to have to. If you saw the pictures of all the overhead lines and everything, so we're going to tear up everything and start over. Everything's going underground in conduit. We're going to be trenching everywhere and rebuilding everything. So.
How long do you guys think it'll take after, like, y'all start at, what, July, August?
June. That's what we're shooting for.
I'm thinking 4 to 6 weeks. I'll be able to turn it back over to them and have them work on the fields and get them prepped for the next year.
The biggest deal is even if they could get it all installed now before the season, the field would be in huge disarray. I mean, they would be torn all to pieces.
They won't be able to grow the grass back in time.
Correct.
Wayne, I was looking through your submittal package here. You know, on nearly every drawing it says drawings do not designate fuse size, wiring, or need type box. Is there any switch gear that's included with this bid?
Yes, there's a knot system that you can go up and control it off of it. You can connect in it with cellular or Wi-Fi. You can operate it. So basically, you can go over there and unlock the box and push the button and light the field up, or go to your app and turn them on.
Very similar to what's the 5A.
Yeah.
Okay. So is there not any like disconnects or anything like that? Any large switch gear or wiring that has to be designed?
Each pole has its own, and it's all included in that package.
Okay.
Is the lighting going to be adequate? Looking at these drawings, page 9, the main field you can see is completely covered with yellow lines and green lines, which I'm assuming is going to be the shine and direction of the light. And as you move out to the different fields and onto page 10, those lines get a lot less. More specifically, the bottom right of page 10. There's very few lines in the outfield, if you will, that shows coverage. Are we sure that this is going to cover everything?
That would be Geico field that you're looking at there, the one at the bottom right on page 10, or bottom right on page 10. Well, that's actually HEB. That's HEB field. Yes, there would be adequate lighting there.
They were designed for the type of play to have the required official level for.
Right, but if you look at page 9, the main field has 1, 2, 3, 4, 20 some lines.
Correct.
Covering that whole field.
Correct.
And as you look at all the other fields, there get to be a lot less lines in the outfield.
I'm assuming the green
those fields
lines are different types of lighting that produce
They are.
lumens.
Correct, and that field is about a third the size of those larger fields too. So,
And I just want to make sure we're confident that it's going to be adequate for any tournament or our kids playing. And
It is.
yes.
secondly, and thanks for coming under budget, Wayne, and greatly appreciate it as always. But had we went up to the $440,000, which was the max budget set in the budget, this additional $20,000 you're requesting, what would have happened with that? If we would have went all the way up to the budget and didn't have room for that additional $20,000 you requested.
Well, we'd have to come talk to you about it and either put it off or find it somewhere. But the additional 20,000 is for the conduit and the wire and the breaker.
And that wasn't in the original. That wasn't in the original.
That is
proposal.
not in their scope of work. They will come in and sell us the material and install the lights and come down to the box right by the pole. We have to wire the ball field, all the circuits in.
Okay.
And then I was looking at it looks like the visor, so it's doing the dark sky thing, right?
Yes.
Y'all good? Yeah, I think that's. Moving on to the next discussion regarding any item on the regular agenda. Anyone have anything to say about the regular agenda? All right, I entertain a motion. So moved.
Second.
Adjourned. All right, we're gonna move into the regular session. We can call to order now, and if we can get a prayer, then we'll go into close.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we can't thank you enough to be in this great community and a part of this great establishment here in the city of Lampasas. We thank you for the folks here tonight. We thank you for our elected officials, our administrators, and all of our staff and any citizens that are with us. We ask that you help us to have some good information, pass it back and forth, and make good decisions for all of our residents and our visitors, for the best of everybody, because that's always your will. We ask that you be with us, forgive us for our sins, watch over us in safety till we can meet again. As and always, in Jesus' name, amen.
Join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
All right, we have a service recognition here. And that's going to be 10 years of service from Micah Harry.
Thank you. Congratulations.
All right, public hearings and citizen comments. 1.1, citizen comments. Any citizen who desires to address the city council on a matter not included on the agenda may do so at this time. City council may not deliberate on items presented under this agenda item. Seeing none. 1.2, citizens comments. Any citizen who desires to address the city council on a matter that is included on the agenda may do so at this time. Seeing none. 2.0, minutes. 2.1, discussion of possible action regarding approval of minutes of the regular meeting held on November 12th, 2024.
I didn't see any changes recommended approval.
Second. All right, we got a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, and 3, consent agenda. Discussion of possible action regarding the October 2024 investment report. I move to approve consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? It's unanimous. 4.0, boards and department reports. Going to hear from Jody with the police department monthly report. Welcome, sir.
Mayor Pro Tem, Council. Y'all are trucking right along. I can make my report go that fast if y'all like.
Yes, sir. I want every detail.
More details? I wouldn't have expected that. Anyway, good evening. Thank y'all for a few minutes to visit with y'all about the police department. Jody Cummings, I'm your police chief. Just a little brief reminder of us. I know you see us coming and going all the time. It's easy to get lost in how many people we have and some of our individual responsibilities, but we have 37 total employees, counting myself down to the bottom. Assistant Chief Charlie Boswell, most of y'all are familiar with. We have a Patrol Lieutenant Chuck Montgomery, Fidel Marua, which is our Patrol Lieutenant, and then we have 3 Patrol Sergeants. We have Larry Wilson was recently promoted to an investigator. We have John Reinhardt, and we have Jacob Hummer, and I overshot it by one. Steve Sheldon is our SRO Sergeant. So that's our Patrol Sergeants. We have 4 SROs, 5 counting Steve Sheldon. That puts 1 at every campus. Proud to say that this year. Then we have 9 regular patrol officers in addition to our SROs. We have a total of 10 communications officers counting Kelly Sanguinet, our dispatch supervisor, who also does our records and many other hats that she wears. And that gives 9 other support, including Mary Mendez, who is also our assistant communications operator. We have 1 animal control officer, Joe Schwartzer, and then we have 3 employees at our animal shelter. Casey Schwartzer, which is the director, and she has 2 employees that works with her. That gives us 37 employees on the day in and day out of the police department. And I'm proud to say I think we do a pretty good job of juggling our responsibilities most of the time. I know you get our stats every month, and you get our yearly stats in the first meeting in January. Some of the biggest numbers that I think are important, and one I find interesting is that first. 49,291 phone calls coming to our office in the last 12 months. That's a lot of phone calls. Now, they don't always generate a report where we're out in the field or a call for service, but it's a lot of activity that comes in through the phone. 4,134 911 calls. Not all of them are major emergencies, but there's still a lot of 911 calls that we respond to in the city. 14,860 calls for service where we actually went and did something or took care of a call in the office. We made 676 total arrests, 1,733 traffic citations, 4,460 warnings. And that's about 2.5 warnings per every traffic citation, give or take. And I think that's a pretty good balance. We put 167,410 miles on 26 vehicles. And that's a lot of vehicles to keep up with. And I've got to give our Patrol Lieutenant Chuck Montgomery a lot of credit because he does most all the work on maintaining, fixing, moving in and out the new and the old. And it is a lot of work. Our Citizens Police Academy volunteers, our alumni that have been through our academy that are still with us, they put in 524 volunteer hours last year in our various assorted events in the city that we help to support. Our Code Enforcement Officer, Brandon English, Tony Barrio retired about 6 months ago, so that's a combination. But in the last 12 months, 366 of the calls I mentioned are specific for code enforcement. Our emergency medical dispatching, our dispatchers, the 10 I mentioned, we dispatched 1,980 ambulance calls in the city in 12 months and 1,472 in the county for a total of 3,452 emergency medical dispatch calls. And I think that's pretty impressive. And our program that we've initiated a couple of years ago, working on 3 years now with the county to dispatch the ambulances, I think that's a huge kudo for not just us, but for the city, the county, and our area, and it's working great. We're proud of our relationship with Hamilton EMS, and it's going good. Our animal control officer, Joe Schwartzer, he's a very busy guy. The animal shelter itself, they took in 484 dogs, 512 cats, and 34 various assorted animals in the last 12 months. Joe himself in the city answered 1,845 calls for service involving animals. Now, some are not all pickup, some are disposals, and some are just trying to locate things like that. But he's a busy guy. That's, 6, 8, 10 a day on average, something like that. So we're a busy little police department. We do a lot of work on a daily basis. And so it's always hopping and it's always interesting and something's always going on. Some of the additional duties that aren't always as exciting that we do, but we're glad to do them. We unlock cars, we'll jumpstart a vehicle, we'll go talk to a young person if someone would like us to, do bank escorts on money, we'll do speaking engagements for anybody that would like us to come visit about any topic that's anywhere close to police work. Somebody comes to town that needs a little extra help on protection, we do that with our dignitaries that visit us. We do paid security for events, as long as it's within reason and it's not something we'd be ashamed to show up at. We do funeral escorts, traffic escorts. We'll provide a courtesy ride, 24 hours, 365. For instance, someone calls from the hospital and they need a ride. They've been seen late hours of the night, they don't have a ride home. We'll pick them up and drop them off. Any other reason, we don't mind. We answer animal control calls after hours the best we can. We'll go stand by if people aren't getting along, need to exchange children, paperwork, clothing, property. If we can, we'll hang out and do the best we can to hope folks get along. We take fingerprints in the office for people like, let's say they want to get their carry permit, or they're applying for a job overseas, or maybe just their new business, a private entity wants them to get their fingerprinted done. We'll do that for them as a courtesy. We don't mind at all. And we've gotten into a lot of safety and security planning in today's time. For instance, churches call us all the time, and they may have a security team of their own, but they'd like us to come visit and give them our 2 cents on what's going on. And we have a couple of people that have been to some schools and trained a little bit, and we don't mind at all. We do that quite a bit these days. So those are some of the things that you don't really think of police doing that we're glad to do, and we do for you guys. Some of the biggest events that we participate in yearly is our L-Check, Lampasas County Higher Education Center, our College for Kids in June, as soon as school's out. We do 2 days. We pretend like somebody's stolen the school mascot, and they're generally 4th, 5th, 6th graders around that age. But we set up a crime scene, and we take fingerprints, and we take a report, and we solve that case. And that takes about a day, and our investigative division does that. Primarily Steve Shelton, our sergeant, and our SROs come the next day, and they do a full thing on patrol cars and the handcuffing, and they bring their drones, and they have a good time the second day. It's really a pretty neat deal, and we like doing that every year. It's always fun. Twice a year, our DEA drug take back. We have a drop-off box in the lobby. Anybody can bring in their old prescriptions. You know, we used to do whatever we did with them, then we learned it's bad for the environment. So now we have a drop box. Any time of day, you can come in and put them in there. And then Fidel, primarily Marua, our lieutenant investigator, takes care of it. He uses it when it's full. But twice a year, we take everything that he's collected, plus we'll set up out front and collect them on all day long, and then run them down to the DEA office in Austin and drop them off, and they take care of them for us for proper disposal. That's a really neat program, and it's great for our environment. We're glad to do that. Spring Ho, I think y'all are all familiar with that. Lots of work, but lots of fun. And then our National Night Out that we just finished a couple of months ago. That's a really cool thing, and it's always well attended. We're very proud to work with HEB on that. I'm glad we can get that done. About to have our police department, fire department, volunteer fire department toy drive and luncheon next Monday, so I'll shoot in a little advertisement for that. If anybody's not busy, come see us, bring a little toy, a little donation, and eat with us. That'll be at the fire department, 11 to 2 this coming Monday. I think most of you are familiar with it, but it's primarily the volunteer fire department. So on the police department side, we kind of organize all the food, the invitations, the advertising, get it set up and get it ready to go and get everybody fed. And as they're taking in the toys and the money, our city fire department and our volunteers, they're working on all that. We get out and then they go to work with all of those toys and all those donations and getting those families signed up and figuring out who needs what. And then about a week later, they have a pickup day, and that is a lot of work on their part. So it's about a 50-50 effort between the police and the fire, and we're glad to help. And it's a really neat deal, and it's unique to us, and it's a lot of fun. And a lot of our local youth probably have a Christmas that they normally wouldn't if we didn't have that program. About a half a dozen other yearly events that we schedule that y'all approve. I think around March to April, we usually bring an approval list in. So maybe not quite as exciting, but we support a lot of other things as well. Notable happenings, again, I mentioned we have 5 school resource officers, 1 on every campus this year. It's taken us about 2 years to get those in place. I'm proud to say we've got them. Our 10 dispatchers are all emergency medical dispatch trained. So getting hired and getting through our field training is one thing, but then they have to go through a program. It's a nationwide company to be sanctioned as emergency medical dispatch. What that means is a call comes in. We don't have to do this. This is an option. But when we took on the program with the county about 2 years, we decided if we're going to do it, we're going to do it right. And so we went the extra step to start the process of having our dispatchers be emergency medical dispatchers. So once they complete their training, someone calls in, it's not just send an ambulance. It's now what's going on? Do we need CPR? Do we need to stop the bleed? Do we need to try to help somebody not choke anymore? And the list is endless. And it's very impressive, and I've seen numerous times so far where our dispatchers will provide this information to somebody on the phone while we're standing there, and watch them go to work. Everything's on a computer. They ask them questions. They start narrowing down. They may be talking to somebody there trying to help them. And I do remember one time, and I hope this doesn't happen often, but it did, and I watched it not too long ago. We had 2 calls come in, one in the city and one in the county, and both needed not just an ambulance, but they needed instructions to help them. And so we had 2 emergency medical dispatch calls happening at the same time there in the PD. And again, I hope that's very rare. But they got through it and did a good job, and it's very impressive to see them go to work when it's time to go to work. Casey Swartzer, our animal shelter, she took on about 1.5 years ago through the Best Friends Animal Society. It's a nationwide nonprofit that raises money to try to get down to the level of us to try to help to be a no-kill animal facility the best we can. And she took on this task, and she has just done wonderful with it. We're under the wing of Williamson County, who's been doing this for a while as our mentors. And what it does is provide money for all kinds of things. Vets, shots, get dogs and cats more readily able to be adopted, advertising, and she's been working this grant to death for about 1.5 years. It has allowed us to say for 2 years now that we're a no-kill animal shelter. And she is adopting out more animals than she has in a long time. This entity helped us build about a 20 by 20 building that's called a cattery. I didn't even know what that was, but that's a real word. But it's basically to house more cats in a facility where they can get them more readily adoptable. And they paid for that for us last year through this grant. And again, Casey working hard with them to get it done. And Charlie Boswell, our assistant chief, primarily helped Casey get all that done and works with her at the shelter. So I'm proud to say we got that done. And Casey does a great job there. And the grant's a neat thing, and we're still in the middle of it. And they still keep giving us a little more, so I think we're doing good. We started taking on our policies and procedures for our police and dispatch last year, and we're about halfway through. We're redoing our standard operating procedures. It was just time. We've had one for each entity for a while, but a lot of things have changed, laws have changed, and we're going with a new program and slowly working through them. I'm glad to say we're doing it. It's tedious work, but necessary. We had 2 good retirements last year. Tony Barrio retired after 20-something years with us and 30-something years altogether. It was just time. And Tim Ryan retired about 2 months ago, about a month ago, after 30 years with us and probably another 4 or 5 in the military and a couple other agencies. So it's good to say we've got 2 openings. They're both due to long-term retirements. I think that's pretty impressive for a small police department. And we've got 2 young men scheduled to go to the police academy, one in January and one in March to backfill those positions as we work our way up. Challenges and opportunities of the future. And they don't change much, it seems like, from year to year. But again, all the growth that we're all talking about, not knowing when it is, how much, and where, it sure keeps you on edge, wanting to make sure you're in the right position. Our city, and of course us at the police department, wondering what's going to happen and when. I think we're in a good position at the police station. Working the last few years with administration at City Hall and our manager, Finley, we've got people in positions, and I don't see, unless we had a huge population explosion, that we need to hire a bunch of people. I think our manager's in the right spot, but as we do have a population increase, which we all know is going to happen at some point, how fast and how much, I don't know. We just need to add a few people to work our way up and to fill our current structure, and I think we're in a good spot for that. But what I'm really proud about is we have a lot of really good people, down from our youngest patrolman up to all of the people that I mentioned that are right under me that assist me every day. We've got a good staff, we've got good folks, and we're in a good spot right now, and that makes me feel good every day. Growth in population eases into recruitment and retention, and we're working hard on all of that. Our facilities, our police department's in great shape. People ask me all the time, because if you've been around long enough, you know that building is probably 75 years old. I don't know how long. It's a complete new building built on top of an old building, but it was done correctly when the city took it on about 22 years ago. So we don't have a lot of extra room, but we've got room. We could add a few more people, and again, unless something happens oddly and we had to add a bunch of people, I think we're in good shape for a while. It's an old building, but it's in great shape. It was restored properly, and we're taking care of it, as did my prior chiefs behind me. So I think we're doing good there. The animal shelter's about 12 years old now, and it's a new modern construction building, and it's in good shape as well. So I think we're good on our shelter and our police department as long as we continue to keep it clean and keep it maintained, and we do a pretty good job. We have great equipment at the police department. Good cars, body cameras, car cameras, plenty of cloud storage. It keeps us on our toes. Chuck Montgomery handles most all of that. Good uniforms, good guns, I could keep going. Even though it's an old building, it's in great shape. And we're very grateful for our citizens and our council and our administration at City Hall that's helped us to acquire and maintain these things. There's always another toy, another trinket, another something shiny. But we have very good basics, and I'm proud to say, we do our best to take care of it. We thank y'all every year for helping us keep that going with the budget time. One other thing is, and it's hard to pin it down on something exact, but the last 2, 3, 4 years have been kind of an odd time in police work and in law enforcement across our country. We had the anti-police movement, the anti-government, the defund this and that. And we all here in Lampasas felt very guilty because as all that's going on, and we're watching it on CNN and Fox News and all of that, people will come up to us in the restaurants and say, thank you for what you do, and buy our lunch, and just pat us on the back, send their kids over to say thank you. But the whole time we were treated great here, and I felt bad what was going on in other places, some of it not too far from here. But in general, the expectations of public safety and police work has changed drastically over the last 6, 18 years. The things we expect our baseline patrolmen to do in the middle of the night, the decisions they make, there was nothing like what I had to 30-something years ago. Deciding who might need to be taken off the streets, not for a crime, but for an emergency medical detention, psychological detention, and taken to a psychological facility near here. I can't imagine, well, I didn't have the training then. It just wasn't a school of thought for police. You took them to the hospital and dropped them off. But that's one thing that we do now, and they are all trained, and we have a procedure, and they have supervisors that can answer questions on the phone, and things like that, and the things we have to say, and everything being on audio and video. I don't know if I made it out of field training if everything that I accidentally slipped up and did and said, just trying to figure out how to be a cop, was all videoed and audioed and open to public records and then placed on Facebook by somebody if they didn't like what they saw. It's just an amazing amount of stress on young people and new people getting into the field. So the increasing expectations are always something that we are trying to stay on top of, and trying to build a better police department and watch what the future holds for us so we can be in front of it to provide a good product for everybody and not have these issues that come up that we have to deal with that might take away from real police work out there. Because that's what it feels like a lot of times, is we could be going out doing something better than arguing about some minor details. But that's the little world we live in, and we're trying to do our best to stay on it for you guys. So that's a lot. Y'all set the pace though this morning, or this evening, so there I went. Becky always tells me 10 minutes and no longer. I didn't look at my watch, so I don't know how I did. I'm an open book though. If y'all have any comments, suggestions, questions, be glad to answer them for you now or later.
Chief, you bring up a good point about training your officers with all of the stuff that's going on in society today. We are blessed that we're kind of sheltered from that, or shielded from that a little bit. Regardless of the political nature of the business in the other cities or even in this town, do you feel like your budget is adequate to make sure that your employees or your officers are trained to the best of your ability, the knowledge that you can give them so that they are prepared for those completely different situations than when you were a young officer?
Well, there's a couple things I can think of, and yes, we've been very well taken care of by our friendlies here, our prior administration. They've been very gracious, our councils have, with our police department budget. Our budget's right at, I think, 3.7, give or take. And of course, most of that is salary and benefits. And I can't say that there's any major thing that we need right now. Now, part of what you are alluding to is our training, trying to stay up with it. We have a good chunk of that is our training budget. We are able to do so much online now, and we try to watch to see what we can get the most bang for our buck. Now, not everything needs to be online. Sometimes you have to or need to be somewhere to have a real live, been there, done it kind of police officer saying, this is the right way, this is the right, that. So we try to balance that, and we always make sure we've got all the training that we need for the requirements, obviously, but anything close to that. And so I think we're great on training. The equipment, again, we're doing good. And I don't want to turn into a budget and a wish list, but it's a hard balance in our geographic area where the city of Lampasas, the Lampasas police are located, to try to say, how much should you be paying your police officers? And that is such it's a hard topic because we're not exactly like anybody around us. It's hard to compare because though we may have this many highways and this many schools in town, the next town, Burnett, they pay a little more than us, but then they're a little closer to Austin. So how's that competition with those Austin agencies? Well, what's close to Burnett? Well, Marble Falls, Cedar Park, Liberty Hill, they're all paying more than Burnett, but they're a little closer to Austin, and they're a little closer to the state agencies home there. So it's really hard to say, but at the same time, we'll move away from equipment and training, trying to keep that balance as to what we need to be paying ourselves is a difficult to put a pin on and say, this is exactly where we need to be each year. So I'm concerned about keeping our starting salary at an acceptable level behind those that are closer to the high-paid ones, so we're not too far behind. But I, as your chief, and my officers aren't asking for more than we should. So it's hard to say exactly what, but that's the other part of it. Training, equipment, salary, I think we're very well taken care of, but we need to stay on top of them all the time to make sure we're not falling behind in any of those areas. Does that get close to answering your question?
Yes, sir.
Anyone else? Any comments?
Thank y'all very much. Appreciate it.
All right, 5.0, routine matters. 5.1, city manager's report.
Good evening, Mayor, Pro Tem, and Council. Thank you again for the opportunity to be in Lampasas. I'm just really glad to be here. The people have been fantastic and welcoming, so really getting settled in well. Just wanted to give you some updates. You guys may be getting some phone calls. I noticed went out last week to our water customers about a lead and copper rule that was issued by the EPA. It's kind of a trickle down from the incident that happened in Flint, Michigan with contaminated drinking water. And so what it's requiring is public water systems to go through and identify which parts of their water systems, specifically service lines, might be lead, might be galvanized, requiring replacement, or might be unidentified and potentially requiring replacement. So far staff has identified about 40 service lines, and to be clear, that's the section of line between the meter and the customer's house. So generally that's the customer's side of the line, and the city does not do work between the meter and the house. So far staff has identified about 40 service lines that may require replacement. They are doing some additional targeted sampling to see if they can find any other lines that might need that replacement. Initially it came out as an unfunded mandate, and so people were kind of trying to scramble and see where they might, because you don't want to just go to your customer and say, hey, you're going to have to replace this line, and oh, by the way, it's on you. But now some funding has come through on the federal level and on the state level to accommodate those service line replacements. So as staff works through this with our customers, we'll identify some funding to potentially pursue to help offset some of those expenditures. So if you get any phone calls, that notice did go out last week, so it may be catching some customers' attention. I attended the meeting of the Defense Alliance last week with several state elected officials that have filed bills in the interim before the upcoming legislative session for communities that have been affected by a tax exemption on your homes, up to 100% for disabled veterans. So there are some communities that are being disproportionately affected by that tax exemption. So counties and municipalities have been able to apply for some subsidies from the state to kind of help out with that loss of funding. And speaking with Finley prior to that meeting, there's very minimal impact to the city of Lampasas itself. It's more concentrated on the county, but it is there a little bit. Right now, the legislation that's out there is for counties that have the military installations in their county, but our elected officials have filed some bills to expand that to counties and municipalities in counties that touch the counties with those military installations. So we're going to keep an eye on that as it works its way through the legislature. Staff in the streets department has reported that the 2nd Street project was about 40% complete last week. They started doing the sidewalk pours. So once those are completed, 2nd Street will be about 60% complete. They're also forming out the tops for Western, and that project is about 60% complete now as well. LEDC met last Wednesday to discuss the cost share on the wayfinding signs with the city. They also discussed some improvements to the signage at the business park and some possible incentives for businesses that may be affected by some construction and things like that in the area. And you'll have an item for consideration later for their cost share. The capital improvements program committee met on Thursday. They, to my understanding, wanted kind of a summary of what was approved by council during the last budget session. So they got an update on what projects from the CIP were approved and what might still be out there as we move into the next fiscal year, which is just around the corner always. And they'll start having their meetings again this spring. Library staff reported last week a really great turnout for their barbecue fundraiser. They anticipate raising about $8,000 from that event. They're also doing a really fun giveaway until January. Kids aged 7 to 17 can come into the library and fill out a ticket when they get there. They get a ticket for each visit. They get entered into a giveaway for a stuffed backpack that has a lot of cool goodies in it. So they've been giving away 2 backpacks a week. It's a really fun interaction to watch with our library. They're doing great. And then on Friday, I kind of wrote this summary before we actually had our meeting, but there was a meeting for Lampasas. One of the primary items of concentration was clean up along Sulphur Creek. So there's a group of people that are spearheading some efforts to, right now I think they're trying to tackle invasive plant species. I'm working with Parks and Wildlife to identify what they can apply along the creek and how they can kind of mitigate some of the plants that are taking over the area before they do too much more work. We got to get those under control as they move forward with the cleanup. But really neat group of people, really awesome ideas rolling through there. So that was a fun meeting to attend. There are a lot of folks going to do great things there. Do you have any questions for me?
Do we know the impact of the VA? How many inspections we do have on Lampasas proper?
I believe Finley told me 1% of our total tax base, and Finley may correct me if that was, I believe that's the number that you gave.
The last time we checked that stat with CAD, it was, I believe, 2 sessions ago when the legislation was brought up, but it was, I think it was less than 3% in the city itself.
Anything else, John? Thank you. 5.2, Mayor's comments. Well, they're here sitting here, but I'm just going to say I hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving.
Same to you.
6.0, unfinished business. Don't have any. 7.0, new business. 7.1, discussion and possible action regarding canceling the December 23rd, 2024 City Council meeting.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. Yes, this is a regulatory item we do every year. We're just asking that we consideration of canceling the December 23rd meeting. It falls on the next Monday.
I move to approve the request to cancel the city council meeting scheduled for December 23rd, 2024.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Unanimous. 7.2, discussion and possible action award wayfinding sign contract to the Zone Builders Incorporated, DBA Southwest Monument, and sign in an amount not to exceed $133,740.
This item was brought before council back in October, and at that time, y'all had asked to consideration of cost share with our Economic Development Board, and then to verify some longevity of the signage that we have in place that we are looking at for the vinyl. So we did go before the board, and they did agree to approve 20% of the total, which came out to be about $26,748 towards the overall project cost. And then we did verify that the vinyl that will be utilized has a 9-year longevity on it. And then they will give us a 1-year warranty on when they install the signs for us in case there's any problems that we may encounter. And then we do have Studio 1619 has been part of this project before where they did the same typical type of signs. And they had about a 5-year longevity on them as well, not like as good as they did when they were first installed. So we're pretty confident that this will do a good job for us. So.
Part of these signs is the signs to tell trucks not to turn down 4th Street, right? Am I right? No?
No, that would not be part of this. This is wayfinding, directing traffic to go to downtown. Various entities are out.
Yeah, that's the tech side.
Correct. And if you have no questions, I would like to consideration of a motion to approve the award from 1619 for the wayfinding sign contract with the Zone Builders, DBA Southwest Monument, and sign in amount not to exceed $133,740 to design and install 22 wayfinding signs.
Can I ask a question real quick? So their total bid was $139,900.
Yes.
LEDC agreed to cost share $26,748. I guess I'm confused why the amount is that we need to approve is $133,740. Because if their bid's $139,900, cost share is $26,748. Shouldn't that amount be $113,152?
Well, I'm asking us to engage contract services with Southwest for the wayfinding contract, and then we'll go back and we'll get the funding from EDC to offset that. But the 139 was prior to value engineering. The 133 is what I'm asking, because I don't necessarily want to design the back of the signs. It's going to cost us an extra $6,000. So I just want to do the 133. 740 is going to be the total project for the 22 wayfinding signs, and I'm asking for y'all to approve the project to move forward, and with the obligation that the EDC board will pay us the 26,748 will go back into the GL.
The EDC is going to reimburse us. So the EDC agreed to pay 20% of the cost, but it's going to be a reimbursement back to us. So we need to pay the whole thing.
That's not my question. Thank you.
Did that help with the difference in the pricing from the 139 to the 133?
Yeah, I think so.
Appreciate the EDC coming in and helping.
Absolutely.
I'll go ahead and approve the motion.
I'll second it. We got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Alright, we have 6 for and 1 against. Alright, 7.3, discussion and possible action regarding a request to close Briggs Street from East 4th Street to Middle Street on December 21st, 2024 from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. for the community toy drive to help mitigate traffic congestion.
Mayor and Council are making this request to mitigate traffic congestion and to assist with traffic flow during the community pickup for the toys around the fire station on December 21st, from 07 to noon.
I move to approve the road closure for the community toy drive.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous?
Thank you.
7.4, discussion and possible action regarding reappointments of members to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, Council. This item is just in September. We had 5 members on the Parks and Recreation Board that their term expired. They didn't meet in October, so then in November they reviewed those 5 that are interested in reappointing and volunteering for another term, as well as they had 3 new applicants that were interested in the position as well. The board met on the 21st. They recommended approval for the reappointment of Diane Davis, Clay Harrington, Shirley Blake, Harvey Sennett, and Minnie Pattis to the Parks Advisory Board. The 3 Janet Logan, Leslie Greer, Janet Crozier were also considered for this position as well. They also, all 3 are currently on board member right now. They're on different boards. So we have Janet Logan, who was just appointed to our planning and zoning. Leslie Greer is on the construction board of adjustments, and then Janet Crozier is our CIP board.
I move to reappoint Diane Davis, Clay Harrington, Shirley Blake, Harvey Sennett, and Minnie Pattis to the Parks and Recreation Advisory.
Second. Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous? 7.4 passes. 7.5, discussion and possible action regarding the first reading of an ordinance to amend the city's information technology policies and procedures referred to and adopted by ordinance in the city of Lampasas personnel policy, specifically prohibiting the installation of TikTok or another covered application on any device owned by the city of Lampasas.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. The 88th Texas Legislature passed Senate Bill 1893 in 2023, which requires state and local government entities to adopt a policy prohibiting the installation or use of certain social media applications, specifically TikTok, on any city-owned device. The legislation requires the City of Lampasas to pass a covered applications policy within 60 days of the release of a model policy written by Texas Department of Information Resources and the Texas Department of Public Safety. This policy formalizes procedures the city has followed since the legislation's effective date. The amended policy has been reviewed by legal and city manager, therefore staff recommends a motion to consider the approval of the first reading of an ordinance to amend the information technology policy, adding a covered applications policy for the city of Lampasas, which prohibits use of certain social media applications and services on governmental entity devices as required by Senate Bill 1893.
So moved.
Second. Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 7.5 passes unanimous.
Thank you.
7.6, discussion and possible action regarding lighting improvements at the Turner Complex in the amount of $376,850.
We're ready. Let's put in some lights.
Make a motion.
Motion to approve lighting improvements at the Turner Complex in the amount of $376,850.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 7.6 passes unanimous.
Thank y'all.
Entertain a motion to adjourn the executive session.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? All right. City Council of the City of Lampasas, Texas, meeting closed executive session pursuant to the Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, as follows. 8.1, Section 551.074, personnel matters to deliberate the appointment, evaluation, reassignment, duties of city manager, and other personnel matters as allowed by Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. All right.